Partly cloudy conditions overnight, according to the WVTT Severe Weather Action Team. But as we reported earlier, even though 99.1 Big Bob Country's doing all Christmas music, not a bit of snow in the forecast for a week or more. Overnight low temperatures tonight, 27 degrees, and we'll have complete weather details straight ahead here on WVTT.
Now, WVTT Global News Update.
A decision to raise fuel prices in the country of Jordan is not going over very well. People in Jordan taking to the streets in protest. And their complaints are not limited to the price hike. As CNN's Leonie Lakhani tells us, the crowds are now showing a new level of anger at the Jordanian monarchy.
With the onset of the cold winter months, the last thing Jordanians wanted was a rise in gas prices, but that's exactly what's happened. Overnight, the Prime Minister Abdullah Ansur appeared on state TV announcing drastic hikes in prices, more than 50% on cooking oil, around 30% on diesel and kerosene, and more than 10% on low-grade gas. That sparked mass protests in the capital Amman, and many others reported from the north of Jordan all the way down to the south, including Karak, the hometown of the Prime Minister. Protesters are calling for the resignation of the Prime Minister, but more significantly, they will also chant against the king. Public criticism of the king in Jordan is punishable by a prison sentence. The government says price hikes are needed to offset a growing budget deficit. Jordan is highly reliant on outside sources for energy. It imports more than 95% of its needs. That's a huge burden on the economy, adding to about 20% of GDP. The main source of gas through an Egyptian pipeline has been disrupted repeatedly because of the volatility there. But on the streets of Jordan, the people are demanding a reversal in the price hikes or the ouster of the government. Leonie Lakhani, CNN, Abu Dhabi.
The U.S. president is hosting some of his country's highest profile chief executives at the White House later today. The CEOs of General Electric, Ford, Walmart, and Dow are among those Barack Obama will talk with about the U.S. economy and reducing the deficit. On Friday, President Obama will hold a meeting with congressional Republicans. He's expected to take a hard line with them, calling for a $1.6 trillion in additional tax revenue over the next 10 years. That's double the sum Republican Party leaders offered in talks last year. The meetings are part of negotiations into what is known as the fiscal cliff. But what does that term really mean? CNN's Jordan Mann explains.
I'm Jonathan Mann with another political jargon buster. What is the fiscal cliff? It's shorthand for the potential economic disaster that's facing Washington. In real terms, it's the $7 trillion in spending cuts and tax increases scheduled to go into effect at the beginning of January. The President and members of Congress set the deadline themselves last year after they failed to agree on how to reduce the U.S. debt. Now, time is almost up. Democrats and Republicans remain far apart on a deal that would reduce the deficit, reform the tax system, and U.S. entitlement programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Analysts warn if there's no agreement, it could cripple the U.S. economy and drive up unemployment. Will the political standoff turn into an economic disaster? U.S. politicians hope to avoid running off the fiscal cliff.
Meanwhile, in Delaware, the search is on for two suspects in the shooting death of a University of Delaware student. Todd Quiones has our story.
Peter DeSabatino was known as the small guy with a big personality, a natural comedian who kept his friends laughing. The memory of his smile makes his loss even harder.
He was a great person who deserves to be remembered as a great person.
The 20-year-old University of Delaware sophomore died at 9:30 Monday night when police say he was shot outside his apartment at the Studio Green Apartments.
He had a really, really big personality, and he was very, very unapologetic.
Witnesses say they heard 3 gunshots. Police say 1 hit DeSabatino in the upper body.
I couldn't sleep last night. I keep seeing his face, but I wish there's something more I could have done.
7 months ago to the day before DeSabatino was killed, his high school, Appoquinimink, lost another student when classmate Andre Smith died in a car crash. No one imagined they would lose a second student so soon.
We knew both kids had died, and it's a tremendous loss for all of us. And it's the hardest thing you will ever have to go through, is to lose somebody that you truly care about.
In this same apartment complex, Lindsay Bonestall was raped and murdered in 2005. Her killer was just sentenced to death. Police haven't made any arrests in DeSabatino's shooting, but his friends say they hope they get some answers soon.
You said you knew Andre?
We all knew Andre.
And straight ahead on the 6 o'clock report, a look at WVTT sports and also full weather details coming up. Stay tuned. This is News Channel 25 WVTT.